Kiev's strikes on Russia's oil sector have severely disrupted fuel supplies and logistics for Moscow's armed forces. The fuel shortage in the Russian army is reaching a critical point. This is negatively affecting the course of the fighting. The army is not finding fuel for the offensive, so Ukraine continues to target Russia's oil infrastructure, causing fuel shortages, panic, and economic hardship across the country. The Telegraph reports queues formed at gas stations in Moscow, Crimea, and the Far East. Fuel prices rose, and authorities imposed rationing on gasoline and diesel fuel sales. The crisis was triggered by Ukrainian drone strikes on oil refineries, pipelines, and port terminals. According to experts, the attacks have reduced oil refining by nearly 20% on some days and disrupted exports from key ports, weakening Russia's ability to finance the war. Ukraine is also attacking oil depots and pumping stations, increasing domestic discontent and pressure on the Kremlin. Russian Energy Minister Alexander Novak tried to downplay the situation, declaring a small shortage, but analysts note that drone attacks on domestic fuel supplies are seriously affecting the population and businesses. Experts note that the fuel shortage is spreading from the Far East to central Russia, including Moscow, and this is the first time during the war that the capital has felt the effects of military action so close to civilian life. The Ukrainian attacks are having a significant impact on the domestic market. Drones are targeting facilities responsible for ensuring domestic fuel supplies. Shortages are occurring across Russia, exacerbating an already strained domestic balance, said Luke Wickenden, an analyst at the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air. The US and EU administrations continue to put pressure on the Kremlin. Donald Trump called on Europe to completely stop importing Russian energy resources, and the EU is accelerating its plan to wean itself off Russian gas by the end of 2026. Experts believe Ukrainian attacks on energy infrastructure have become some of the most effective sanctions, as they have a rapid and direct impact on Russia's military budget. Although the Russian economy has so far withstood sanctions, fuel shortages and supply disruptions are exacerbating domestic problems and creating additional pressure on Putin, prompting him to reconsider his strategy. The situation is not critical. Russia has sufficient oil and gas reserves, as well as financial reserves, to overcome this inconvenience, and the goal of conquering Ukraine is a much more valuable prize, said Emily Ferris, an analyst at RUSI. Russian occupation forces are experiencing significant shortages of fuel and lubricants on the front lines. This is a consequence of Ukraine's active attacks on oil refineries in the aggressor country, says military and political analyst Dmitry Snegirev. These are such painful blows to the Russian economy that the Russian Ministry of Finance announced a proposal to increase the VAT rate from 20 to 22% starting in the new year. This is a signal that the Russian economy has overheated and no longer has enough money to support active military operations in Ukraine. And this shortage is precisely because oil refineries have been disabled by Ukrainian drone strikes, he said on the Freedom television channel. According to him, more than 20% of Russian oil refineries have partially or completely suspended operations due to such attacks. He added that Ukrainian drones are specifically targeting imported equipment, which Russians have minimal ability to repair due to sanctions.
We have nothing to hide. We never attack civilian infrastructure, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told journalists. Incidents happen, but we never conduct targeted fire against them. According to Associated Press, speaking during his press conference on the sidelines of the General Assembly, Lavrov described what he called a deep transformation in global affairs. He said this reflected a clash between an objective and historically driven process of shaping of the multipolar world and those who would like to maintain unipolarity. Lavrov said Russia does not target European countries with drones or missiles. He added that Moscow had proposed talks with Poland after recent incidents, but no one wants to discuss facts. On the Middle East, Lavrov referred to discussions at a recent Arab League and Organization of Islamic Cooperation summit. He said the meetings had addressed the atrocities that are being perpetrated on the Gaza Strip, adding that collective punishment targeting the Palestinian people was prohibited under international law. Russia, he said, was ready to join efforts aimed at stopping the violence. Turning to Iran, Lavrov said Western policies amounted to a deliberate operation aimed at coming to the next level of choking the Islamic Republic of Iran in terms of economy and finance. Lavrov also commented on U.S. policy, saying, "We don't see that the U.S. is withdrawing from the policy of holding an open and honest dialogue." Asked about Ukraine, he rejected the idea of restoring the country's 2022 borders, saying such expectations would be political blindness. He said Russia was acting to uphold our legitimate interests and those of people whom, he claimed, were marginalized by the authorities in Kiev. "There's no discussion of the 2022 borders," Lavrov said. "We're talking about the borders which are enshrined in Russian constitution." He further alleged that drones were being modified to make it appear as if they were launched from Russia.
Мир переживает глубокую трансформацию. В рамках этой трансформации сталкиваются два магистральных процесса. Один объективный, исторически обусловленный процесс формирования многополярного мира, прочно опирающийся на принцип суверенного равенства государств, заложенный в уставе ООН. И вторая группа стран – это те, кто хочет все-таки сохранить однополярный мир, сохранить то, что мы привыкли называть золотым миллиардом, сохранить уже не колониальные, а неоколониальные методы, суть которых одна и та же – жить за счет других. То нам нечего скрывать. Мы никогда не атакуем гражданские объекты. Инциденты случаются, но мы никогда и не ведем прицельный огонь по ним, и мы никогда не направляем наши беспилотники или ракеты по государствам, которые расположены вот в Европе, и из членов Евросоюза, и стран Североатлантического альянса. И еще раз, если бы поляки действительно хотели разобраться в этом, мы предложили встречу, немедленно предложили встречу. Но никто никогда факты не хочет обсуждать. Это сознательная операция, направленная на то, чтобы приступить к очередному этапу удушения Исламской Республики Иран экономически, финансово и так далее. Ну и то, что и вы пишете периодически, политологи об этом упоминают, то, что угроза новых ударов по Ирану сохраняется, и, как кто-то сообщает из знающих людей, даже обсуждается в практическом плане, это тоже достаточно показательно. Ну, в дипломатии, как вы знаете, и прежде всего в публичной дипломатии, многое может произноситься, исходя из специфики момента. А моментов у нас много, и специфика каждого из них меняется. Поэтому мы не видим какого-либо отхода Соединенных Штатов от курса на проведение открытого, честного диалога. Совсем недавно состоялся саммит Лиги арабских государств и Организации исламского сотрудничества. На этом саммите шло обсуждение того, какие бесчинства творятся в секторе Газа. Продолжается коллективное наказание палестинского народа, что ничуть не лучше терактов, которые мы все осуждаем, но коллективное наказание также запрещено международным гуманитарным правом. И вот если по итогам этого саммита наши арабские, мусульманские друзья проводят какую-то работу, и результат этой работы будет иметь практическое значение для того, чтобы попытаться остановить происходящее, мы точно совершенно присоединимся. Вы знаете, насчет границ 2022 года, по-моему, уже никто на них не рассчитывает, потому что рассчитывать на возвращение к этим границам было бы политической слепотой и полным непониманием того, что происходит.